Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take one source, sometimes just one object, and really go deep to pull out everything you need to know.
And today's object, it's a real head-scratcher. It kind of lives this bizarre double life.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. On the one hand, it's this landmark achievement in, technology, a huge milestone from the early Middle Ages.
Absolutely. But then on the other hand, the actual content of this object is a profound challenge to our very idea of reality itself.
It's a real paradox. We're talking about the Diamond Sutra, or if we're going to use the full, beautiful original name, the Vajrachedika Prajaparamita Sutra.
A bit of a mouthful, but the name is key, as we'll see. But yeah, it's famous for two completely different things. First, it's a cornerstone text in Mahayan Buddhism.
Right. Hugely important for the Chansen traditions especially.
And then there's the other thing. Its place in world history as the world's oldest dated printed book. And the date on it is, well, it's staggering.
It really is. It puts it almost 600 years before Gutenberg started printing in Europe.
So, okay, let's unpack this. That's our mission today. How can one single text be this revolutionary piece of technology, a real testament to human effort and ingenuity?
And at the same time, be a guide to essentially shattering reality. We're looking for that connection, the aha moment that links the tech with the spirit.
We're going to trace the physical object first. I mean, from its discovery in a sealed-up desert cave to where it is now in the British Library.
And then we'll get into the philosophy, that perfection of wisdom that the title promises. We want to see how this idea of, printing for the masses connects to a philosophy of radical non-attachment.
Let's start with the artifact.
Yeah.
It just feels right to start with the physical thing we can, picture.
Agreed. So we're talking about the Dunhuang block print copy of the Diamond Sutra. When people talk about the beginning of mass communication of printing, this scroll is ground zero.
And we have to be really precise here because it's the oldest dated printed book that we know of.
Right. That word dated is so important.
It is. There are other little bits and pieces of printing from earlier, single sheet charms, seals, things like that, but nothing on this scale with this kind of complexity.
And crucially, nothing that says, I was made on this exact day.
Exactly. And that date is May 11th, 868 CE.
Just let that sink in. 868. This is during the Tang Dynasty in China, a real golden age of culture and innovation.
And to give you some context, that's a time when, in Europe, the Vikings were still raiding all over the place. We're decades away from a lot of major shifts there. And in China, they had already mastered mass-producing books.
The story of how it was found is almost as incredible as the object itself.
Oh, it's pure adventure movie stuff. It was part of this huge collection of manuscripts found in the Mogao Caves. They're also called the Caves of the Thousand Buddhas near Dunhuang in northwest China.
A major stop on the old Silk Road, right?
A huge one. And one of these caves, Cave 17, which got nicknamed the Library Cave, was just full of stuff. And it had been walled up probably in the early 11th century.
To protect it, presumably.
Most likely. To protect the text from invaders or just, the chaos of the times. And it sat there, sealed, for about 900 years.
Wow. An untouched time capsule.
And then, in 1900, a Taoist monk named Wang Yuanlu, who had sort of appointed himself as the guardian of these caves.
He was trying to restore them?
Yeah, he was. And he just stumbles upon the sealed doorway. He breaks through and finds this unbelievable treasure trove. It was a complete accident.
And that's where the international part of the story begins. A few years later, in 1907, the archaeologist Aurel Stein shows up.
Sir Mark Aurel Stein, a legendary and somewhat controversial figure. He heard about the discovery, traveled there, and managed to persuade Wang Yuanlu to sell him a huge number of manuscripts.
Including the Diamond Sutra.
Included the Diamond Sutra. Wang needed money for his restoration work, and Stein, well, he knew exactly what he was looking at. The acquisition is still debated, but it's why the scroll ended up in the British Library and became known to the world.
So let's talk about the object itself. What does it look like?
Well, it's not a book in the way we think of one. It's a scroll, a very long one. About 5 meters or 16 feet all told.
And it's made of several sheets of paper pasted together.
Exactly. 7 sheets pasted end to end. And the printing technology itself, woodblock printing. It's just so sophisticated for the 9th century.
So walk us through that. How did they actually do it? It's not just like a big rubber stamp.
Not at all. It's an incredible craft. First, you'd have to have a calligrapher write out the text perfectly on very thin paper.
Okay.
Then you'd paste that paper face down onto a block of wood, a nice smooth piece of pear wood, maybe. So now the text is on the wood, but it's in reverse.
Ah, so it's a mirror image.
Right. And then the really hard part starts. The carver has to cut away all the wood that isn't part of the characters, every little bit of negative space.
Leaving the characters raised up from the surface.
Oh, precisely. And you can imagine, with complex Chinese characters, one slip of the knife, and you've ruined the whole block. The frontispiece, the illustration at the beginning, is even more detailed.
And then you ink that block and press the paper onto it.
And you do that for every single sheet, ensuring the pressure is even, the ink is consistent, the quality on the 868 scroll is just stunningly high. They really had this process down to a science.
All of which, all that labor and material and skill makes the little note at the end of the scroll, the colophon, even more mind-blowing.
This is the real hook for me. It's the message from the guy who commissioned it.
It reads, "Reverently made for universal free distribution by Wang Ji on behalf of his two parents." And then it gives the date, May 11th, 868.
Universal free distribution.
That phrase is it stops you in your tracks. We think of public domain and open access as these really modern ideas.
And here it is, explicitly stated on the oldest dated printed book in the world.
It creates this incredible tension, right? The printing process was expensive. This wasn't a cheap hobby.
No, it required a lot of capital, skilled labor. And yet, the person paying for it all, this Wang Ji, he's not looking for profit. He's not trying to sell it to the wealthy.
He's doing it for his parents, for their spiritual merit.
It's all about accruing merit. Within Buddhism at that time, helping to spread the Dharma, the teachings, was one of the best things you could possibly do. So the technology, this amazing complex printing technology, was just a means to a devotional end.
So the idea of giving the wisdom away for free isn't just a nice little add-on.
Not at all. It's completely tied into the philosophy of the text itself, which is all about letting go of attachment, especially attachment to material things.
Okay, that feels like the perfect bridge. We've got the physical scroll, this amazing artifact. Now let's dive into the words on it. The full title again, Vajrakirika Prajaparamita Sutra.
Right, and that title is basically the whole thesis. It translates roughly as the Vajra Cutter Perfection of Wisdom Sutra.
Or the Perfection of Wisdom text that cuts like a thunderbolt, which is just an incredible title.
It really is. We shorten it to Diamond Sutra in English, but that central metaphor, the Vajra, is everything.
So what is a Vajra? It has a kind of double meaning, doesn't it?
It does. It can mean diamond, the hardest substance known, something that can cut through anything. But it can also mean thunderbolt, this irresistible, instantaneous flash of power from the heavens.
So the wisdom in this book is supposed to be, what? Both indestructible and incredibly fast and powerful.
Exactly. The idea is that our normal way of seeing the world, our ignorance, is like this thick, tangled mess of wrong ideas. The idea that I am a solid, permanent thing, that this table is a solid, permanent thing.
And the Vajra wisdom doesn't just chip away at that.
No, it cuts straight through it. It shatters the illusion in a single brilliant flash. It's a very radical, very uncompromising kind of wisdom. It doesn't let you hold on to any concepts, not even holy ones.
When was the original text actually written? Before this Chinese copy, obviously.
The Sanskrit original is a bit hard to pin down. Scholars place it somewhere between the 2nd and 5th century CE, but we know that by the 4th or 5th century, it was already hugely influential.
So it spread pretty fast.
Incredibly fast. I mean, you have major philosophical figures like Asanga and Vasubandhu writing commentaries on it very early on. That tells you it was considered a major text right from the get-go.
Which led to this, what the outline calls a translation race to get it into Chinese.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. This text was so important that people poured enormous resources into translating it. The first really successful one was by a translator named Kumarajiva in 401 CE.
And his version is the one on our 868 scroll.
It is. And his style is a huge reason for the sutra's popularity. He wasn't a strict literalist. He was more interested in capturing the meaning and making it flow beautifully in Chinese.
Making it readable, accessible.
And chantable. His version is poetic. It's easy to memorize and recite, which made it a huge hit with everyone, from monks to regular people. It was just more effective spiritually.
But other people kept trying to translate it, even after that.
Oh, yeah. The text was so revered that people thought, maybe we can get an even more accurate version. The famous pilgrim Xuanzang, who went to India and brought back original Sanskrit texts, he translated it twice.
Trying for more precision.
Total precision.
Yeah.
His approach was the opposite of Kumarajiva's. He was a scholar's scholar. But funny enough, His versions never really replaced Kumarajiva's in popular practice. They were seen as a bit too technical, maybe. Less poetic.
And we know the text itself, the physical copies, traveled all over. I was struck by the mention of fragments found in Afghanistan.
Right, in Bamiyan, birthbark manuscripts from the 7th century. It just shows you how this wasn't just a Chinese text. It was all over the Silk Road. It was an Indian, a Central Asian text that became a cornerstone in East Asia.
And all this study led to a massive amount of commentary. The outline says over 80 commentaries by the end of the Tang dynasty.
It's incredible, and people didn't just study it, they revered it. The acts of copying the sutra by hand or reciting it out loud were believed to have almost magical powers.
Which brings us back to Wang Ji, our printer.
It does. But the most famous story about this power is about Huineng, who became the 6th patriarch of Zen.
The illiterate woodcutter.
The illiterate woodcutter. The story goes he's out selling firewood, and he overhears someone reciting the Diamond Sutra. He hears just a few lines.
And it triggers his enlightenment, just like that.
His initial awakening, yes. It hits him so hard that he drops everything, leaves his old life behind, and goes to find a teacher. The text itself is a catalyst.
Okay, so we've established the history and the power attributed to it. Let's get into the philosophical core, the actual logic of not.
Right. And the setting for the teaching is so ordinary. It's almost funny. The Buddha has just done his daily routine. He's walked into town, begged for food, eaten his meal, washed his bowl. Then he just sits down to rest.
It's very grounded, no thunder or lightning.
Not at all. And then one of his senior monks, Subhuti, asks him the big question. Basically, how should someone who wants to become enlightened live? How should they control their mind?
The ultimate how-to question.
It is. And the Buddha's answer spins around these core ideas of anat man, not self, and the emptiness of everything. The word for emptiness, shunyata, isn't actually in the text, but the whole sutra is a demonstration of the concept.
The goal being, as one scholar put it, to achieve a non-discriminatory basis for knowledge. What does that actually mean?
It means learning to see the world without constantly chopping it up into separate, solid things. It's about getting past our habit of saying, this is me, that is you, this is a table, as if those are permanent, fixed realities.
And it starts right away with a massive paradox.
A huge one. The Buddha says a bodhisattva, an enlightened being, has to make a vow to save all living beings in the entire universe, bring every last one of them to nirvana.
A pretty big job.
An infinite job. But then, in the very next breath, he says, and yet, when this is all done, no living being whatsoever has been brought to extinction.
Okay, wait, that sounds like a contradiction. How can you save everyone and then say no one was saved?
This is the absolute heart of the teaching. It's designed to stop your mind from clinging to concepts. If the Buddha had just said, there are no beings to save because there is no self, what would you do?
I guess I'd grab onto the idea of no self.
Exactly. You turn no self into a new concept, a new belief to hold on to, a new fixed thing.
A fixed concept of nothingness.
Right. So the paradox forces you to hold two things at once. The compassionate action of saving is real, but the concepts of a savior and a being who is saved are not ultimately real. An enlightened mind acts without getting trapped by those labels.
So this is what's called the logic of not.
It is. It's this relentless process of negation. The sutra takes every important concept, dharmas, thoughts, even the idea of the Buddha himself, and dismantles it.
Why? Is the point that language is the enemy?
Language is the trap. It makes us think that because we have a word for something, the thing itself must be stable and real. If you think, I am enlightened, the text says you can't be. Because a real enlightened person wouldn't even have that thought. It would mean they were still seizing upon a self.
The scholar David Kalipahana breaks this logic down into a three-step pattern, right? This seems really useful.
It's the key to understanding how it's not just nihilism, not just saying nothing exists, it's a process.
So walk us through the 3 steps. Step 1 is
initial affirmation. The Buddha brings up a concept as it's normally understood. For example, he'll say, all dharmas, which means all things, all phenomena. We hear that and think of them as a collection of real, solid things.
Okay. Then step 2 is the cut, the vajra.
That's the critique. He immediately follows up with, Supusi, all of them are dharmaless. He negates the substance. He's saying they have no inherent, fixed, independent existence. They aren't solid things in the way we think they are.
But then, why still call them dharmas at all?
That's the brilliant third step, the reconstruction. He concludes, that is why they're called all dharmas.
So you're saying we can still use the word, but we have to know it's just a convention, a useful label for something that's actually fluid and empty of substance.
That's it exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting. You don't have to stop talking or stop living in the world. You just have to stop being fooled by the labels. The mind becomes free from thinking that things are solid and permanent.
Give me another example.
Sure. The text says, those so-called streams of thought, Subhuti, have been preached by the Tathagata as streamless. That's the critique. That is why they are called streams of thought. That's the reconstruction.
So my thoughts aren't a real solid stream, but it's okay to use the phrase stream of thought to communicate.
You've got it. The ultimate freedom is realizing the word itself isn't the thing. And you can see how this loops all the way back to Wang Ji printing the book.
He undertakes this incredibly material, fixed, difficult task.
But does it for universal free distribution, an act of complete non-attachment to the material reward. He's using a fixed object to spread a teaching about the illusion of fixity. It's perfect.
So if everything is empty and illusory, what has real value? This leads to the idea of incalculable merit.
Right. The text comes back to this again and again. The Buddha sets up this comparison. Imagine you took all the jewels in the universe, gold, silver, diamonds, and you or bigger. Way bigger. Think of it as a practically infinite collection of galaxies. It's a gift of unimaginable cosmic proportions, the greatest possible material act of generosity.
Okay. So you make that offering.
And the Buddha says that the merit you would get from truly understanding and explaining in just 4 lines of the Diamond Sutra is infinitely greater.
Wow. So the wisdom is valued more than literally all the treasure in the universe.
Infinitely more. Yeah. It completely devalues the material world in favor of the insight itself. Material gifts give you temporary good results. But this insight, this leads to liberation, to enlightenment.
It's the ultimate payoff for the whole argument. The physical book, the ink, the paper, the wood blocks, they are less valuable than the understanding of a single verse contained within them.
It's the most efficient path to merit there is. You don't need cosmic riches. You just need the sharp, cutting insight.
And the entire teaching is then condensed down into one final, incredibly beautiful poem, a 4-line verse, a gatha.
This is the summary, the takeaway, the thing you're supposed to recite to yourself to remember the nature of reality.
The Chinese version, translated by Red Pine, is probably the most famous one in English. All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow.
Like dew or a flash of lightning, thus we shall perceive them.
The Sanskrit is slightly different, but the feeling is the same. It lists a shooting star, a lamp, a dream, a thundercloud.
What's common to every single one of those images?
They're all fleeting, they're gone in an instant. A bubble pops, a flash of lightning disappears, dew evaporates.
They're defined by their impermanence. That's the final instruction. Don't deny the world, but see it for what it is. Not a collection of solid nouns, but a flow of momentary verbs, a dream, a shadow.
So we've come full circle. We started with this incredibly solid, tangible object from 868 CE. A piece of human history you can see and touch.
And we end with its core message, which is that the reality that scroll exists in, the library, the world, us, is as fleeting and illusory as a bubble.
So what does this all mean? It feels like the Diamond Sutra is a challenge to hold both of these truths at the same time.
I think so. The greatest treasure from that cave wasn't the ancient paper or the ink. It was the wisdom that the technology managed to preserve. The technology itself was just a vessel, a magnificent world-changing vessel, but a vessel nonetheless.
So the oldest dated book in the world is a book that tells us the world itself is. Well, it's not as solid as a book. It's more like a dream.
Exactly. The human need to build, to create, to record things is real and powerful. But the insight that frees us is seeing that everything we build is ultimately impermanent.
We've seen that the wisdom is valued more than any physical thing, yet it only survived because of this amazing physical technology, which leaves you with a final thought to ponder.
What is the thing we're building today that feels completely permanent and substantial to us? I mean, maybe it's the blockchain, this idea of an immutable digital ledger, or the massive server farms that hold up the cloud.
And the question is, will people 1,200 years from now look back on all of that and see it as just another bubble, another flash of lightning?
The Vajra keeps on cutting, I suppose, even through our newest, most solid-seeming illusions.
Something to think about as you go back to your day. That's been The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.